Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation CHOKMAH BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Giving all honor, praise, and glory to the Most High, King of the universe for life, full clothing and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Giving all due respect to the leadership of our congregation, even my brother, Prince Jeriel Ben Yissaskar, praying that the Most High God be with him and his family and his household, praying that the Creator will continue to bless, keep, and protect him, be with his wife, with his family, with all those that he loved. Also, that the Most High God will continue to be with all of you who listen, all of the members and the recurring subscribers that continue to come back and listen to this program. I pray that the Most High God will continue to bless and keep each and every one of you. Whatever you might be going through, whatever maladies you might have, whatever sicknesses, whatever might be going through in your mind, whatever you might be going through emotionally, pray that the Most High God will be with you and bless you and protect you. Also praying that the Most High God will continue to bless all of our elders, those who are in the hospital, those who are going through anything, praying for Ima Aleph, praying that the Most High God be with her, protect her and strengthen her, praying for Zuriel Ben Chief Elazar, who also I heard is in the hospital, going through something, praying that the Most High God will bring him some healing and that he might be strengthened. And praying for that family who also lost their uncle, Chief Joshua Ben Levy, and praying for all those who just might be going through something during this time. It's sad and hurtful to know, that when people are going through things, but we know that if we put our trust in the Creator, the Most High's will be, and we know that our God is not short of any, I don't even want to call them miracles because these are the things that he does. We call them miracles as human beings, but these are the works of the Creator, all right? Nothing is a miracle for him because he created it all, and he causes everything to happen the way that he wants it to happen. So, giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Creator. At this time, we're going to go over the portion of Terumah, or well, not we, the person who I'm going to call up. This being one of my teachers and one of my mentors, I pass it on over to Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Well, I have better days. Thank God. First of all, giving praise to the Supreme Authority of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and due respects to the platform on the D.C.B. channel platform. Spiritual leader, Chief Prince Jeriel Ben Yissaskar, and also to the host, Chief Bozal, to the Prince, Chief, Rabbinate, Corny, brothers and sisters. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom. And really need to pray now. Adonai, Septai, Yitako, Via, Giti, Athiaka. Oh Lord, open down my lips. I should declare that praise. Well, as you could hear already, my trip in New York, I had a great time, but I brought something back with me. Just got here a couple of days, and I said, wow. Yeah. But I had a great time in New York. But nevertheless, just bear with me. And I might not talk that long this time. But I will try to do my best to expound because we got a lot of stuff coming on in the next few weeks. And the Shabbat that just passed was actually Shabbat Shekolim. And most people that have, scrolls in the congregation brought out, plus Rosh Kodesh, brought out 2 scrolls, at the minimum 3 scrolls, and technically you only need to bring 1 scroll out. But people, when you have them, it's not to keep the congregants waiting for you to get to a certain portion to read, according to tradition. So now we left off last week when Moses and Mishpatim ascended the mountain, and he was going to be up there for 40 days and 40 nights. And he got some information. He's learning a lot of stuff from the Creator. Now, what is interesting is that we ourselves didn't want to hear the Creator, so we designated someone. So, like I said last week, we think about and talk about the actual elders that was up on the mount, and they seen the presence of God in a vision, which I emphasize. And while they was up there, they eating and drinking. And you will say, well, when you have some questions, but no questions asked, no new revelation except that what they saw. That's it. So it goes to show you, and that's why, another emphasis, God didn't lay a hand upon them, because you're in the presence of the Most Highest. And yet you already had the revelation with the rest of the nation of Israel and the mixed multitude. And yet at this time, you didn't want to hear the Creator actually speaking, or even have a question for him. So that would appear kind of brazen. But now we into some of the things that Moses was being taught on the mountain. And the particular chapter starts from the 25th chapter, Exodus, and it goes to the 27th chapter around, and it ends at the 19th verse. I'm going to highlight a few things in there this particular time, because from the 25th chapter of Exodus all the way to the end of Exodus, 15 chapters with a little insertion of the sin of the golden calf, is all about the tabernacle, which in Hebrew is called the Mishkan. So since I got Chief who's here, he got start from the 25th chapter of Exodus, and we'll speak on it from there.
All right, give me a chance to Exodus 25th. Let me find it, and then I'll read it. I stayed on because I figure you're gonna need some help.
Well,
usually Nasik does this all by himself, but I got to stay on for the triple OG, as we say. What do you want me to start from the top?
Yeah, from the top.
From the top. All right. Let me give them a little scripture action here. Just bear with me for a second, people. As we know what's happening, we just want to make sure we get all this correctly. Yeah. It is what it is. All right, here we go. We'll get this going. We are in the book of Exodus, chapter 25, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah. And it reads, And Yehudah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they take from me an offering of every man whose heart maketh him willing, ye shall take my offering.
Before we go further, I like to say, he ain't asking, he said, telling Moses to take. And, what is interesting is that this is directed to Israel, not to the mixed multitude. You know, so you figure if the Mishkan be for anybody that want to worship God, why not say from anybody right away? And it's because of what he did for Israel as a whole that he addressed the nation of Israel directly and saying, I don't want them to give me anything. I want you to take for me. And I word it like that because you're not helping me, you're helping yourself. A lot of times we don't realize that, and it's a lesson within that first verse, is that when we don't become as great as we can when God works with us, we become great as we possibly can when we work with God. So that's when we become the greatest. Not when God working with us, but when we work with the Creator. So therefore, the Creator gave us an invitation to work with Him so that we can become elevated and great. All right. So that's one of the things. And also another thing, a sidebar. Men don't usually give up stuff easy. Women is, and we're gonna find later on. So saying go against your natural order of hoarding or gaining stuff and be, a giver. And that's more of a female, what you're gonna find later on. The men did a lot of stuff to give up for the wrong things. And excuse me, when we get to the later on, a couple weeks from now, why hell that it's the women that actually made moves. So, and yet, even then, if you don't realize that God giving you the opportunity to make you great, is that because He only wants this from a willing heart. So that's what's important. So even though He told Moses to take it, He said, only take it from those that's willing to give it, not just house. So this is the first fundraiser that you read for any enterprise. And also, it teaches another lesson. One of the great lessons is this, is that you must invest in your institution. You must invest in what you're doing. So when we talking about the first fundraiser for our building fund, but yet when we think about this, we must think about we got the opportunity to say we invested in the future of the community. All right, but let's go on from 3.
Verse 3, it reads, and this is the offering which ye shall take of them, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skin dyed red and seal skin and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, onyx stones and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
Hold it right there. The sanctuary is not for God to dwell in, but Bethel means to dwell within the individuals, each and every individual. So when we think about the house of God, it's like He must reside there. But the house is a representation of, all right, I got physical stakes in this area, and yet, but I'm not going to live in there. I want to be in you. And this is one of the things here. So another thing, when you give up towards this building fund, which is the tabernacle, you're saying, I'm inviting the Creator to dwell within me and work with me. And that's a lot of thing. All right. And then one of the things it mentions is that he gonna say, I'm gonna be selective. I'm not you just don't bring me anything. I want certain items, and I'm gonna tell you how they should be used. So some people just say, bring me this, bring me cash, bring me this, and don't tell me about the plan. The Creator already said, not only are you going to take this, but this is for the plan. This is how it's going to be used. these are the options. I mean, the items that I need. So let's pick up from the thing.
And it reads,
According.
verse 9, according to all that I show thee, the pattern of the tabernacle, the pattern of all the furniture thereof, even so shall ye make it. And
Okay,
they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 feet thereof. And 2 rings shall be on the one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of acacia wood, overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings on the sides of the ark, wherewith to bear the ark. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt...
Before we go further, one of the things I want to focus on is 3 metals that's used here. You know, but one of the things is also another thing I like to bring out is what you're going to pick up later on as Chief Uzziah read through here is that you're going to start off in the plural, you, they, and then it's going to end up in the singular, you. You know, and you say, well, wow, why start off with they shall do? And you know, Moses can't do this by himself. God and other people actually putting work in. So why is it start off with they and then it ends up with you? Now, this also is a form of unification when you're talking about, you know, unity, because it's not about a bunch of people. It's about people being one with the project, you know, and that's what it's all about. So we was united at Mount Sinai when God spoke with us. When it comes down to building the Mishkan, we're going to be 100% united in building the Mishkan when we get a chance to do it. But right now, what is also interesting is that we find Moses come down. I mean, when he's up there, he's not taking notes. All this is mental. So now you're going to have what a sketch artist we're going to talk about later on when we get to that part, when we get to Wayakel, that Moses got a plan that the Creator speaking to him in his head, not something he come up with pen and paper to and sketch down. So, and though it says they, later on, if Moses focus on you usually, Moses is not hammering anything. Also, when we think about the metals, 3 metals is used: gold, silver, and then brass, copper, in that sense. You know, so when we think of those 3 metals, and you say, well, what happened to iron? Why not use iron? We got 13 articles that's mentioned pretty much here, but only 3 metals. And then you gotta say, well, okay, all right, we know the value of gold, we know the value of silver, we know what copper is worth, but why not talk about iron at all? We only was told that when we build an altar, a stone, we should not build a view stone. We lift up that tulip on it, how greatly polluted. But yet, we're going to be told in this particular sidra that Moses is in charge of having us build an altar, 2 altars, matter of fact, but the main altar that sits in the courtyard. All right, and so now when we go into the other projects, and I'm speaking, just to save a little time and my voice, so when we go into the courtyard, I mean, we have objects that in the Mishkan itself. Yet major objects that had a lot of gold on it. You had the Ark of the Aron, which is ark itself, that cloth that has the loophole in it, which is the tablets of the covenant. You have also that the menorah. You have the altar incense, which they talk about later on, and you have itself the shulchan, the table for the showbread. Now, what is interesting is that when we given dimensions, and we're given dimensions of the different items there, gold is soft. So if gold is soft, and we're given sizes for the ark, we're given sizes for the shulchan. We're given size for the not in this particular sidra, but we're given size for the mezbeach, the altar that sits in the courtyard for sacrifice. And yet, we're not talking about what kind of tool to use to make it, to work with it. Why is that word iron is left out in that sense? And then when we find the size, we know gold being a soft metal, but it's more precious. But with the weight of the Aron Kodesh, right, the ark of the covenant, just with 2 little poles in there and 4 rings in there with 2 poles of wood, wouldn't that snap? Wouldn't the rings break off under normal circumstances? The brazen altar, that's made of brass, wood and brass. You pick that up, it should break. And counting about the menorah itself shouldn't it'll collapse on its own weight when it's told how it's made. So you have different levels of gold. That means alloys had to be put into it. You got different types of gold. You got gold that describe as good, gold that describe as bad. Excuse me, let me just make a quick move. Give me a pause for a moment. You gotta check on something.
Hallelujah. It's interesting that Nasik spoke about that, because that's always been a mode of thought for me about gold, with the pure gold and putting it in the stage. But I guess some of the things that they did in order to make this work is according to the plan that the Creator left. The things were overlaid with gold. Things were made that sort. It's a beautiful thing. This is the master plan that's being given in Terumah. And something very interesting that he brought up also was that Moses had to use muscle memory basically to retain all this, because there is nowhere written where it says he wrote this down. We know that he wrote the 10 words down, but there is nowhere written that say that he wrote all this stuff down. So Most High God ingrained this in Moses' brain. Go ahead, Nasik.
All right. And one of the things, and excuse me for that, we had to go grab some. As we look and about the weight of it alone, and we have a lot of everything that's dealt with the fabric of the Mishkan itself can be analyzed, metaphorically with an Israelite in their life and travels history. All right. Before I even go further, I just want to highlight a certain thing about when we talk about the gold, the silver, and the brass or the copper. We remember in the book of Daniel, they talk about the 4 empires. And yet they talk about a statue with a head of gold, then the next part of the body is the silver, and then the latter part is brass. But they don't talk about the iron and the clay and all that. And you wonder, you say, wow, we went out all 3, but we didn't lead completely of the last one, of the iron. And it's a lot of metaphorical messages behind that, which I'm probably talk about in the future. But one of the things is that the Nebuchadnezzar is supposed to be that head of gold, which is the most powerful empire. After that, you had the silver part of that statue, or that image, which was the Medo-Persian Empire. And then you had what you call the brass, which is the Greek Empire. It took over. Now, which is interesting, we know gold always is, value more than silver, and silver more than brass. And yet, when we talk about, and we look at the situation of the market, you had gold, and then you had platinum. People started dealing with platinum for a moment. Now, platinum was just a phase, because it's rarity, and people, wanted to, get the platinum, but platinum was like silver. But the nations based their money on gold. Now, at one time in America, they changed from the gold back, standard for the dollar, I believe around Roosevelt time, into gross national product. But actually, gold is back on the rise, and platinum is not worth what we think it is. So all the people that brought a lot of big platinum stuff, and when it was in its heyday, its value is not the same as gold standard around the world. And the economy, when you look at it, it shows you that. They don't tell you about what's the platinum standard around the world, unless they're talking about cars or something like that, some vehicles. So these are precious metals that's used here. Now, when we look and say, okay, the gold is used, and that means that the type of gold that we use for the Aron, which is the Ark of the Covenant, will be a different type that's used for the menorah. And so when we talk about pure gold, we think about 14 karat. They got levels: 14 karat, 18 karat, 24 karat. But gold, 24 karat gold, is not what you could use for every item in the Mishkan. That means you're gonna have to use certain type of alloys. So when we think about the building of the Mishkan, it's much more unique and complicated than just saying this is gold and it's all the same type of gold. When we read throughout the scriptures that good gold, and and from certain lands and stuff like that, there, even in the book of Genesis, it mentioned about gold as the first metal that's mentioned in the book of Genesis. It mentioned about gold itself. So, and that standard still exists until today, as far as precious metals go. And what is interesting, if gold is so important, why not make the whole place gold instead of throw some silver up in there and brass up in there? Because it's supposed to reflect metaphorically the type of individuals we are. One of the things I would share, and then get back into the Mishkan, the Sidra, is that when we think of a person that makes a repent in their life, change, and become a Ba'al Teshuvah, which means a master of repentance. In other words, I did what I did, I atoned for it, never went back anymore to that. That's a rarity. And that's why gold's more rare than silver. That's the highest of the individual. Everybody can't get to that level. But when you talk about silver, that's the average righteous individual. He don't mess up. He just, maintain his even flow with the Creator. But then when you talk about the brass, the copper, that's an individual that is still hope for him, but he's down there. He's not really producing like he's supposed to. These all represent certain areas, and you notice the brass is mostly used on the altar that sits in the courtyard. The silver is actually used for the Adonim, which is actually the sockets that hold up the planks that surround the 48 boards that surround the Mishkan itself. So when we look at that, and we talk about the curtains, and we talk about different colors that's mentioned there, the purple, the red, and the blue. Those three colors mentioned there. They also represent a certain type of character, which I'll speak on later, because they're gonna come up again in YAH. But as we look into the actual stones that's prepared there, you say, okay, how do you beat that menorah into shape without iron? I mean, you can't use a wooden hammer. You can't use a gold hammer. You can't use a silver hammer. Brass, may not be good enough. So this is some of the things that we got to look at and analyze within the scriptures when we read about the Mishkan itself. And just to think about the weight. Some of us understand the weight of the lid, the very lid of the ark. The cherubims that sits on top of that lid, they would crush in if it was made in the exact same type of gold that the menorah was made out of. And that itself was tough gold, but softer than the Ark of the Covenant. And then you look at the table, the shulchan, and that itself would be heavy to carry itself and break. So it's different levels of gold throughout the whole area. And we told what the silver is used for. And one of the things we have to focus on Shabbat the past, Shabbat Shekalim, we look at the half shekel. It's the first shekel we're talking about in the scripture concerning a donation for a census to count. Also, we're talking about a half shekel, that everybody would bring. One not supposed to get more, and one not supposed to get less. And when we get to the shekel and the counting of Pekel Day, it's certain things, certain items are not counted out all the way through in Pekel Day. So I'm just, preparing, a little bit of outline at this particular time. And then when we talk about the actual size, the way that the tabernacle is set up, it's a humble looking house on the outside, humble looking fabric on the outside, but the interior become more and more laudable as you go inside, much more elegant. And when we think about some of the things that is there, the Creator is saying that all these items were going to be used for a specific purpose. Now, another question like that, I'd have you consider, why would the Creator that created the heavens and the earth need us to build him a dwelling place so he could dwell within us? Why don't he do it himself? Why is it coming upon us when he had created the heavens and earth? And where he dwelled in earth before, he built the garden. He planted a garden without man and placed man in that garden. So if he planted a garden, yet he already told the earth to bring forth this, to the earth to bring forth that, and yet he actually planted a garden in Genesis. And he will frequent the area and pass through. And yet, at that time, he did all these things. And centuries later, he said, you need us to bring out some material to build a spot for you. When Solomon said, the heavens of the heavens of the heavens cannot contain you, how much less this house which I built. So it's not about him staying here. It's about him being able to have a relationship with the nation of Israel itself and everybody else. But also, it's not limited to Israelites to bring it. It's incumbent upon Israelites, Moses, to take it from them. But you had a mixed multitude that could also contribute to the building of the house. But the responsibility was on the Israelites itself. So continue.
It reads, verse 16, and thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee, and thou shalt make an ark cover of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubim of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make them at the 2 ends of the ark.
All right, now what's interesting, and we're gonna skip on down to the next. We'll skip on down to the 23rd. What's interesting is that, do we know what cherubim looked like at this time? I mean, we hear about that term used in Genesis. All right, when we talk about a sword, we can identify a sword, but can we identify what that creature looked like? We only get descriptions of a cherub in Ezekiel, but a seraphim and in Isaiah. And you say faces. What kind of face? And then let's go down to the 23rd verse.
Verse 23, it reads, and thou shalt make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and 1 cubit and 1 cubit the breadth thereof, 1 cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make unto it a border of a handbreadth round about. And thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Closely by the border shall the rings be, for places for the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them.
And right, and now skip down to 29th verse.
Verse 29, and thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and the pans thereof, and the jars thereof, and the bowls thereof, wherewith to pour out of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table, and thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always.
All right, so what they baking it in? What they making the bread in? Gold pots. You know what I mean? Silver pots. You know? So the thing is that certain things will be utilized, like when we're talking about iron, and not that focus back on, you know, one of the staple things is that also brass, and talking about the land, you know, and talk about whose stones are iron, and the hills you could dig brass from. That is the staple of every nation. You know, a nation could exist without gold. It can exist without silver. But to be able to build a nation, an independent nation, you got to have iron, you got to have brass. Most of them machinery. Those, you know, so when people, you know, think about, you know, green thumb and all this stuff, you know what I mean? And talk about global, you know, global warming, you know, these is essential to any society. You know, the Greeks, even they represent as far as our empires, 3 empires of brass on the statue. Interesting enough, they the first ones that actually use copper coins for currency. You know, that's a trivial fact for you. You know, everybody else is using silver as a major mode of commodity. Rarely they will ever use gold pieces. Silver was the major mode of commodity in the ancient world. And then, you know, the Greeks introduced copper as, you know, when they became in power. So, and we can go back in Genesis, I told you Abraham had some gold. We didn't know he had gold. But what he purchased the cave of Machpelah with was silver, international currency. So, and that's, that's pretty much, some of the things that take away. Now, if we say showbread, in Hebrew, lekapani, bread of faces, and when you think about that, you say, why is it be up there every week? And you're going to give it to the Kohen at the end of the week. Unleavened bread. We know when we go to the store, we look on the date of the bread, you got the fresh, the sell by date, you got the fresh date, and we get closer, the price go, or either they move it around and got a different type of tag or different color tag on the bread because its shelf life is not going to be that long. The unleavened bread, okay, it won't spoil, but would it taste fresh? That's the thing. I have matzahs. I always buy a new pack every year, just for traditional purposes. But last year matzah, it tastes a little bit different than the new matzah, but it don't spoil. It don't spoil at all. But it tastes a lot different. All right, so we're gonna move on just a little bit more. Let's go about to go 31.
Verse 31, it reads, "And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. Even its base and its shaft, its cup, its knops, its flowers shall be of one piece with it. And there shall be 6 branches going out of the sides thereof, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side thereof, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side thereof. 3 cups made like an almond blossoms in one branch, and a knop and a flower, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms in the other branch, and a knop and a flower. So for the 6 branches going out of the candlestick."
Stop it there. Mm-hmm. All right. And one of the things about that, imagine the skill that be done. And it's got to be beaten out of one piece. One piece. And then let's go to the 39th verse. What is it, as it says in the 39th verse of the same chapter?
Verse 39, it reads, "Of a talent of pure gold shall it be made with all these vessels, and see that thou make them after their pattern, which is being shown thee in the mount."
All right. So even the candlestick, the menorah, had accessories. Everything had accessories. All right. And it don't detail all the time what the accessories were made out of. And that's something when we read and look closely, because a lot of people say, well, why read about 10 pegs and all this stuff, and tense. But it's a lot of information and metaphorical, things that you can extrapolate from this when you take when we take our time and look at it and see how they apply to us. But one of the things, and also some of the things that's not even mentioned, what they made of, with the accessories, how they should be. And then it's all about after the pattern of the mount. So when we go to the 26th chapter and talk about the curtains for the tabernacle, we talk about them that. Then they talk about the boards. So we're gonna go to the 15th verse of the 26th chapter.
All right. I got a question for you, if you don't mind me asking in the middle.
Okay.
So it says, I looked up the talent of gold. They said it's worth anywhere between $1 million and $13 million today. How much gold would that be? Because it says it will be worth that much. So we know that whatever this is something of great value, and it's a lot of gold somehow.
Well, I wouldn't be able to calculate it, justly, and I don't think very few people would be able to calculate justly, even with the estimation, simply because the mine gold then and the mine gold now is a lot different.
Got you.
And also the thing is the smelters to be able to forge the gold. It just don't pick the gold out the rock and it's ready. You
Gotcha.
know, you got to actually have a person that smelts it down, hook certain alloys with it. You know, so the labor that it would entail at that time compared to what they might do today, you know, it's hard to imagine. They got a menorah in Israel, and they tell you what the value of their menorah that they have in Israel that they keep on display inside of a case. But that's like I say, that's what they say. That's what it is.
Right.
But when we think about back here in those times, we know that Solomon built 10 more menorahs in his in the temple, along with that one menorah that Moses had in the Mishkan. So that one is so unique that it don't say how Solomon actually made those other 10 menorahs.
But I mean, I don't want to cut your time and make you talk about
but the value.
Yeah.
I would say priceless because this is the design that God wanted. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you can't put a price tag on it. You know what I mean? Because you figure what's more important to an individual. You know what I mean? To get close to God.
But
lighting the menorah, or being able to bring an offering to get close to God. Or praise on the altar.
On both in both instances, though, wasn't everything already supplied for Solomon and also for Moses? It was more so like you said, the donation, but everything was kind of supplied. The gold we got from Egypt, am I correct?
All right. When you pick up gold from Egypt,
in terms of labor, we didn't really do. I mean, the labor was the years that we put into Egypt, but the reward was we didn't have to go into by a river and grab gold. We just got it off the Egyptians. Am I correct?
Well, you're getting the jewelry off.
Right.
But the jewelry, you got a ring. You might have a ring. You might have a bracelet. You might have a chain.
You got to melt it. Right.
There you go.
Right.
And it got to be a certain consistency for the object that you're making.
Got you.
You know? So that's pain taken because gold, like for instance, I know most people when they come from Panama with gold, it'd be like a reddish looking color.
Right.
You know, gold in the United States mostly be like a yellowish. In China, gold look like a greenish type of color.
Got you.
You know, but I had a ring that I brought, from Chinatown, Chinese made style, and it was a green looking gold.
Okay.
You know, so each gold has a different, you have to be worked on.
I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we in verse 16 of the 26th chapter, right?
Yeah. 15.
15. Verse 15 of the 26th chapter, we'll proceed. And it reads, "And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each board. 2 tenons shall there be in each board, joined one to another. Thus shalt thou make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of the silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under the one board and 2 sockets under another board. And for the hinder part of the tabernacle westward, thou shalt make 6 boards. And 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle and the hinder part."
1 second. I got to check on this again.
Okay, no problem. So we definitely see here that that the Creator is beginning to give not only the architecture, but he's giving the floor plans for what he wants created. Now, keep in mind that this is just Moses getting the instruction. The Creator is the supreme architect, right? And Moses is working as he has to capture it, and then he's just working as the person who's going to draw the floor plan. But the creator is the supreme architect because he is the creator and he is the one giving the instructions and the exact perfect measurements to everything that he wants done in this Mishkan. Go
All right,
ahead.
thank you. And one of the things, excuse me, for this year, I had some things going on in the back. I had to check over them right quick, and make sure things running smooth, so I don't have a problem when I finish. One of the things about the size, as Chief Wozell brought out, is that everything is not in the perfect size, except for one item which we don't read about till later on, and that'll be the golden altar. Everything else is partial, 2 cubits and a half, so and so cubits and such. And what's interesting when we deal with the menorah itself, is a talent. We don't know the size of the menorah, at all. We don't have a clue what the size of the menorah would be like. All we know what needs to be used for it, and how it should be adorned. And then when we look about the pattern, even the tabernacle itself is not in the perfect. It's like a double square, as we refer to it. It's oblong. In a sense, rectangular rather. I should say rectangular. They say the size of a football field when they fix it up. And you say, well, why such a fragile looking place like that? And it's supposed to be movable, portable. The whole thing is supposed to be portable. And so we got board measurements, we got curtain measurements, and we got, connections in there. And what's interesting is that though the boards are set in silver at the bottom, that the rods that keep the boards together with the poles going through them are gold. So that's kind of strange in itself, but we'll talk more about that when we get to YAH. But like I said, this is just being told of Moses while you're up in the mount, and it gives you an outline of that. And one of the things we're gonna skip on over to the 26th chapter, 31st verse.
You said repeat that again, Nasik.
26:31.
26:31. 26:31 reads, and thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen with cherubim, the work of the skillful workman shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon the 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, their hooks being of gold upon 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the clasp, and shalt bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. And thou shalt put the ark cover upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle towards the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make a screen for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the weaver in colors. And
All right, before we go further, what we find here is not only furniture in the house, but location of the furniture in the house. Usually when you move into a place, you say, well, where should I put this? Where should I put that? The Creator saying, look, the menorah going to be in the south part, the bread going to be in the northern part, later on the altar of incense, is, westward, and you have the compartments set up. So it's like the particular layout of the house is set up in a unique way in the Mishkan itself. And the Mishkan itself is actually 2 compartments, it's covered over completely. And only the Kohen goes into the Mishkan itself. That's what goes into the Mishkan. Unless they get ready to move and they had to break it down. you know, then the Kohen go in first to prepare it. And then the Kohathites, you know, get the items and, you know, transport it. But what is interesting is that when we talk about, again, cherubim, what are these creatures all around? Well, we shouldn't be focusing on the creatures. We should be focusing on the Creator. Why we read about cherubims in the curtains, cherubims over the ark cover, and yet, you know, we only going to talk once a year about the Kohen Gadol going once a year into the Holy of Holies, the commune with God in there, you know, between those two guys and between the two objects. So why is that? And is that borderline that cause a problem later on to idol worship or polytheistic worship? Because even to this very day, I know a lot of Israelites that are into angelology to this very, very day. Now, this angel's over this angel's over that. You know, just the order of angels. You know, and some people that would get into Kabbalistic studies without being practical in Tanakh studies, you know, and Torah studies. And in those areas there, we're given a reason why the cherubim is put over the ark cover. We're not really given a strong reason why they're in the curtains. You know, that's, you know, I mean, it's a lot of thought and talk about it, but why have it there? You know, at all. Wouldn't the curtain be good enough by itself? So these are some of the things that, you know, you can talk it over with your leaders and teachers and go back over it. And when you talk about other items in there, like in the third verse of the 20, the 26. One more thing I like to focus on before I go forward. When we get to the brazen altar, you know, the altar that we offer the sacrifice on, what is unique is that how is it that you made it of wood? It's made of wood, and you got to carve horns on the end, on the four corners, out of wood. And yet, at this time, well, we're gonna find out later. At the beginning stage of the making of the tabernacle, you're gonna have that brazen altar that have flesh burning on it continually, wood fire on it continually, made of wood, and overlined halfway up with copper. And that is miraculous in itself. And the horns got to be made from the wood. Not you make some horns and attach it to it. They got to be cut out of the wood itself. And so these are some things you're going to pick up later on when you get to the rebellion with Korach and the 250 princes. And they had their censer pans, and fire came out and consumed them. And they told us to take those censer pans, beat them out, you know, and put them on the altar on the outside and complete the altar up with that. That means the altars were functioning half finished at this time when we pay close attention, you know, when we get to YAH. And only when we get to the Sidra Korah that we find out that there's certain items that was not completely completed at this time. So these are some of the things, you know, to pay attention to as we go forward. And the last thing I want to bring out is about the 7th verse of the 27th chapter.
27th chapter, we go into the 7th verse, and it reads, "And the staves thereof shall be put into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the two sides of the altar, in bearing it. Hollow with planks shalt thou make it, as it shall, and as it have been shown thee in the mount, so shall they make it."
All right, now, 3 things I want to bring out before I conclude this week is that, one, is several things Moses was shown in the pattern of the mount. Three things. First thing is the menorah. It says after the pattern you were shown on the mount. Then it's telling you about the Mishkan itself, the tabernacle, how it was shown on the mount. Then it talks about the brazen altar, the altar that you all offer on continually. All those three, only those three things is spoken on in this particular portion as was shown on the mount. Some interesting things also, that if you read through the Soul Sidra, you'll find that every number is used from 1 to 10 except for the number 9, which is a gematria for true. So if you read carefully, look at any time a number is mentioned in the Sidra Terumah, it's the, every number is used but the number 9. Another interesting thing to bring up is that from the beginning, which I should have brought up from the beginning too, Terumah itself, it's usually about grain. It's never really about metal. So when you talk about taking Terumah, it's always about either from the wheat, the barley, the vine, something like that there. It's never about items such as gold, silver, curtain, wool, skin, all that kind of stuff, brass, copper as they would call it. It's never about that. It's about stuff that nations could actually thrive and trade on. Trade, thrive on grain. You could trade and thrive on, fruit and stuff like that, edibles, something that's sustaining. So normally when they use the term terumah here, don't make me gift or free will offering. The thing is that that's why it went from the very beginning to explain that these are the items you're bringing up, not the terumah that other nations understood to bring up, at that time. So this is one of the things that we find unique in this particular portion here. And like I said, we just went to Shabbat Shekulim, and we got 3 other Shabbats in this particular time of the year, which is Zakor, which would be the Shabbat to come up, the Shabbat just before Purim, which means to remember, command to never forget Amalek. Find about that. Shabbat, Parah, which come up just for HaKodesh is the Shabbat after that, before Pesach, coming up the holiday of Pesach, preparing for it. And then you got HaKodesh, so, and there's Shabbat before the second of Abib. All right. So you have all those things getting ready for, for the Seder night and everything like that. You have all those different unique Shabbats that come up, where most places might come out with 2 Torah scrolls. And like I said before, the 2 Torah scrolls is taken out so that you don't keep the congregants waiting for you to scroll through to find the right verse, for the next guy to read on Shabbat. But, if you have somebody that's really fast, super fast, like sometimes Tifu is and different brothers in the D.C.B, and they can find the scripture real quick, and you only could use you'd be okay with 1. But if not, you're not supposed to keep the congregation waiting. So with that, I hope you got something on I say. Forgive about my little bug I caught from coming from New York. But I had a great time in New York, so I ain't gonna blame it in New York. Because nobody told me to hang out. I'm just having too much fun.
That's your city, man. That's your city. You can't get mad at your city. Your city gave you something to go away with.
Yeah, but I didn't lose my voice till on the highway.
But your voice got better as you went along. The hoarseness went away, so you were good. So one last question.
Yes.
So would this mean that, because I've always heard this terminology, would this mean that Yehovah, that God is the supreme architect? I've heard you use that term before. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. When we talk about architect, it's designed with a purpose. So refer to the grand architect of the universe.
Right.
And it's because everything is not chaos, coming into order. It's order from the onset, from the beginning. Everything's laid out, map. So when Moses is told to build the Mishkan, and he's told to take so-and-so such things, and say what the menorah should be, it'd be beaten work, but he already said this is going to be a menorah. This is already going to be the altar. All right, we know the boards had to be actually cut, but the thing is that he said, well, if we look at the size of those beams and analyze the length of the beams and the weight of the beams, it's not no lightweight 2x4 plank. These beams are humongous that made up the tabernacle. So when we think about when we look at the measurement and we talk about the boards itself and the weight of the boards and how they overlaid and capped, it's a humongous undertaking. And to dismantle or to dismantle and reassemble the Mishkan take you about a couple hours, a few hours, 2.5 hours calculated. So I hope you guys have what I said, and any mistakes from my own, and hopefully I'll be in a lot better shape. Like Chifu said, my voice started coming back a little bit. It took a moment though.
Hallelujah. Torah Nasik.
Yeah. All right.
And that's where we get, some of us get our determination and our grit and our, no matter what, even if we're sick, we still got to get the mission accomplished. Is because we got teachers like this that taught us this way. No matter what, rain, sleet, or snow, come out, do the job with little, don't stop no show. You got to do what you're supposed to do. So I thank you, Nasik, for coming out and for showing up and doing this. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget, May 24th, Unity Shabbat weekend. We're going to be at the same place. The flyer will be out. And don't forget to support us. So we'd like to thank you, everyone. Have a good Shabbat night's sleep. May the Most High God bless and keep you. Or you could go over to the Uzi Alewi channel where we'll be playing music suitable for Shabbat and having discussions, further discussions. So shalom, 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 everyone. May the Most High God bless you. Uziel is spelled U-Z-Z-I-E-L, Lewi, L-E-W-I. That is the channel you could go to in order to join in with other Israelites and listen to some music and have discussions. Shalom, shalom, and may the Most High God bless you all. Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah.